So we are continuing to study Srimad Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, verses 11 and 12 we discussed. In verse 11, Shri Krishna says, Arjun, there is nothing to lament for. Matter is dead and the soul can never die. So for both of these states, there is no reason to lament. And then in verse 12, the Lord says, this is a very important verse. We should clearly understand its purport. न त्वे एवाहं जातुनासं न त्वें न त्वं नेमे च नादिपाः न चैव न भविष्यामः सर्वे वयम् अतः param. Never was there a time when I did not exist, Sri Krishna is saying, nor you, Arjun, nor all these kings, nor in the future shall any of us cease to exist. So Srila Prabhupada brilliantly in his purport brings up the two principles of eternal individuality, that we are eternal jivas, and the second principle of eternal plurality, plurality between jiva and Ishwar. That difference is also eternal. It is not that only in conditioned state we are different, plural, and in the liberated state we'll become one. Even the plurality is eternal. So there is this beautiful section in Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, where Brahmaji steals the cows and friends of Krishna when they are out grazing in the forest. Yeah, Brahmaji wants to test if this is Bhagwan. How can this boy who is eating with his left hand, having dahi rice, how can this boy be Bhagwan? Doesn't look like. So he dares to test Bhagwan. And then he hides those calves, and the Gopal Bal, the cowherd friends of Krishna, in a cave. And for a second, he goes away and comes back. But in that 1 second of Brahma, 1 year has passed on this earthly realm. And when Brahma ji vanishes for that moment, Krishna expands into each and every cow, calf, and cowherd boy. And they all go back to Vrindavan, and every cowherd boy goes back to their mothers, and every calf goes back to their mother cows. Nobody is able to detect any difference, except for one thing, that all of the mothers, the cow mothers and the gopi mothers, all of them feel an increase of affection for their own children, for the Vatsa and for the Gopal Bal. Only even Balramji could detect there's something happening here. And then it is explained, it is why was that increase in affection caused by? It was because now it is not their regular children they were seeing and embracing. It is Krishna who they were now dealing with. So naturally their affection had to increase. In discussion on that same subject matter, there is a beautiful verse. You can also look it up if you want to study in detail. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, chapter 14, verse number 50, 50. So there the conclusion is, what is, so that, that's the beauty of Bhagavatam. It starts with a narration and then it focuses on a principle. So that affection increased for the children. What is this affection? Hmm? What is it that we find dear to us? So that verse says, Sarvesham eva bhutanam nripa swatmanaiva vallabha. What is vallabha? What is dear? Swatma naiva. Swa atma naiva. It is indeed your own soul which is dearmost to you. It is the soul that is dear to all living beings. So we think they are people of our affection, or people in this world are our object of affection. They are not our object of affection. It is actually our soul, because it is spiritual. It is our real object of affection. Yeah, and because The body is related to that soul. We feel that body is affection, an object of affection to us. And because others, family and friends are related to the body, we feel we have affection towards those friends and family. But where does all that affection actually originated? Swatmanaiva Vallabha. So if the soul is the object of affection, why should you lament? Yeah. Because soul cannot die. And in the category of Atma, both Paramatma and Ishwar, both are eternal. So if our real affection is for Atma and Paramatma, and both Atma and Paramatma are eternal, why is there any reason to lament? Yeah. So here we understand that Sri Krishna is saying neither me, the Paramatma, nor you, Arjun and the kings, the Jivatma, have ever not existed. So there is a very nice concept. I mean, just I'll share it. If it's not in the purport, it's not going to be on your test. Don't worry about it. But for those who are interested, it completes your philosophical understanding. So if I offer you a rasgulla, yeah, most of us will have a positive reaction unless you are diabetic. So where does that affection or attraction for the rasgulla come from? It comes from your previous experience of tasting that rasgulla. If I offer a rasgulla to a Chinese person who has never seen a rasgulla, will that create any raga or dvesh, like or dislike? No, because they'll say, what is it? It's not in my database. So the point is, if we don't have a prior impression of something, we cannot have a feeling for it. So if we have never existed in the past, can you ever experience non existence? Therefore, we fear death. Because as a soul, we have never seen non existence. And when we start relating to the body and the body eventually has to die, we feel fearful. Oh my God, is it the end? For the soul, there is no end because you have never experienced non existence. Therefore, you somehow don't all of us intuitively feel that we have always been there and we will continue to be there. It is only due to avidya that we start identifying with the body, which leads to fear, abhinivesh. So that state of previous non-existence in Sanskrit, it is called prak, previous abhava, non-existence. Prak abhava. That if something has non-existent, you can never experience it. So what the Lord, in philosophical terms, what the Lord is concluding or demonstrating or establishing in this verse is prak abha, that you have never experienced non-existence, Arjun. Yeah, and in the future also, all of us will certainly exist. That is, you will never. The soul is always free of destruction. That is called dhamsa abhava. So prak abhav and dhamsa abhav. These are the two principles that this verse is explaining, which makes it so important. Prak abhav again is previous non-existence you have not experienced, and destruction of you being devoid of destruction. That is also, the soul is devoid of destruction. So dhamsa abhava. Dhamsa is destruction, abhava is absence. So absence of destruction and absence of non-existence. This is technically what this verse is saying. Now, if you use this words in talking to someone, they'll really know you understand Bhagavad Gita. Okay, and as we saw in this verse, Srila Prabhupada uses the verse from Shvetashvatara Upanishad, Nityo Nityanam. There are eternal jivas, but the chief amongst all eternals is Bhagavan, Nityo, singular. And all the jivas are also eternal, Nityanam, that's plural. But there is a difference between the singular Nityo and the plural Nityanam. Yeah, that Ishwar is the chief amongst the eternals. And Chetanas Chetananam. He's the chief conscious entity among all conscious entities. So we are also conscious. Ishwar is also conscious. We are also eternal. Ishwar is also eternal. But we are regular and he is the chief. And the second is dependence. Eko bahunam yo vidadhati kaman. That this plural, they depend on that singular for their fulfillment of their needs. That is the difference. The difference is of dependence and being the chief. Okay, so this is clear.
Prabhu, I had a
So,
question about our connection. So this is very clear about our connection with our soul, our intrapersonal connection, relationship, and with the divine, who is mentioned
yeah,
here in the heart of all, each atomic soul. What is not clear
correct.
is about the connection between one atomic soul and another atomic soul.
Sure. Yeah, that's a good point. It's like, in a class, there is a, like in a country, we are all citizens. So that is referred to by the word Nityanam. Sabhi Nitya hai. But there is one who is differentiated from all other Nityas. That is the president. So presiding and ordinary. That is the difference between Ishwar and Jiva. And between the Jivas, the difference is based on karma and Swabhava. How we have made our past choices, that puts us in different situations, different bodies. Otherwise, there is no difference. In fact, as you become learned, you stop seeing difference in Jivas. You see, oh yeah, they are all the soul. Some souls have chosen wisely, and some souls have chosen foolishly. Therefore, they have end up either progressing or regressing. So that is how we can see the relation between one jiva and another. It's just karma and swabhava. Okay, that clarifies. So here in verse 12, Sri Krishna is saying that Arjun, your lamentation is unsuitable because you lack wisdom. So therefore, verse 12 is providing the fundamental difference between jiva and Ishwar. So therefore, this that makes this verse very important. That the Jiva and the Ishwar exist in all three phases of time: past, present, and future. So it is not proper to lament. And now Srila Prabhupada presents in the purport that it's not that there are differences conventional. Yeah. So do you did you get when we discussed last time? Nor is the theory that we think of individuality in the conditioned state supported here. And so Prabhupada summarizes it, but it's also good to, understand it, expand it. So now what are we talking about? We are talking about Bheda between Ishvara and Jiva. So the monists, those who propagate the theory of that there is no difference, they are called monists. So they say this difference that you're talking about is only conventional. It is illusory. The difference that you're seeing is illusory because you are in avidya. As soon as you get vidya, you will see that you are Bhagwan. Have you heard this? So they say that the difference that Sri Krishna is talking about in this verse is for the state of ignorance. Yeah, they call it. This bhed is not real, it's only conventional. It's called Vyavaharik Bhed. If you don't make difference, how will you deal with each other in this world? Yeah, if in reality everyone is one, but we cannot live and deal with others if we act at that level. So to act in this world, conventional, you might see difference, but in the ultimate state, there is no difference. That's their argument. So what do you think? How can we understand this? Is it due to ignorance that we see difference? Sri Krishna is not mentioning this verse to Arjun, who is in a state of ignorance. Yeah. Bhagwan, what is the first quality of Bhagwan? Omniscient, Sarvagya. If Bhagwan is omniscience, if Bhagwan is all knowing, how can Bhagwan have any connection with avidya? So the words coming out from the mouth of Bhagwan, the omniscient, can never be avidya. So it is not, see, Krishna is saying it clearly, simply. Now, if you want to twist the meaning, you can give it any interpretation. But Krishna doesn't need your help to explain his teachings. He's provided it straight. We have to accept it as it is. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was hearing the Shariraka Bhashya, the commentary of Sripad Shankaracharya on Vedanta Sutra from Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya for 7 days continuously, at the end, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya asked, "Did you even understand anything? You have not asked even a single question." So what did Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu say? He said that this bhashya, this commentary, is like cloud which is obstructing the sun. The message of the Brahma Sutra is as clear as daylight sun. But if you twist the meaning, if you give interpretations which are not true to the source, then you have to create so many theories, so many appendices, explanations. It is just making things unnecessarily complicated. It said that when you say one thing which is not truth, then to protect it, you also have to then say 100 things which are also justifying that. That is what happens in this Mayavad Bhashya. So even in the liberated state, the scriptures talk about Jiva being different from Ishwar. So it is not speaking of only conditioned state, nor is it speaking of Jiva being in ignorance and therefore seeing difference. So those are all false arguments. So there's another concept. I don't know if I should complicate it, but this is again the monastic school. How will they explain that? How can you live in this world and see difference, whereas in reality there is no difference? Can someone who's self-realized deal with people in this world? Yeah, because they have realized oneness. Yeah, they have gone beyond duality, but how can they still operate in this world? So they have to create these definitions. So one such definition which the monists, Mayavadis have created is called Badhita Anuvritti. Badhita Anuvritti means that a person can be liberated. They can be beyond duality, but they can teach others. What does teaching mean? Teaching means I'm teaching you that there is one and two, that there is difference. Even the action of teaching means there is a difference. There is a teacher and there is the student. So if somebody is already self-realized, they have gone beyond duality, how can they teach? Because teaching implies duality, right? You understand the problem for them? Then how can a self-realized Paramahamsa instruct? And we see scriptures are full of instructions of self-realized souls. The Kumaras, Vyasdev, Sutta Goswami. So what's happening here? Then they again have to justify by creating a new definition. They say, no, 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 no. It is possible that a Jivan Mukta can be beyond duality, but they can teach duality to others. So that's the problem. One lie, and to support that one lie, you create other lies. So they call it, this is a specialized kind of conditioning, that even after realizing non-duality, you still have a conditional vision. For us, it is like either you are liberated or you're not. But then they cannot explain this, because for them, the difference is only in conditioned state. So they have to explain how somebody from the realized state can exist in the conditioned state, because such people do exist. So this is what they bring out. So this Srila Ramanujacharya presents arguments against this, that when Sri Krishna is speaking, Do you think Krishna is aware of the duality between himself and Arjun? He's saying, never was there a time when neither I nor you. So was that duality an illusion? It is not an illusion. Yeah. Either you don't accept Krishna as Bhagwan. If Krishna is bewildered, even he cannot see that this duality is unreal. Uh, then don't read the Bhagavad Gita. But when we accept Krishna as Bhagwan, he knows that duality is eternal. That's why he's teaching this principle. So, Sri Krishna is presenting the truth of the matter, that there is duality between me and Arjun, and it is not an illusion. The duality is real, plurality is eternal. So that's how you counter argue against this Badita Anuvritti. That how can a liberated soul continue to have dualistic vision? Because for a liberated soul, you say their illusion has been destroyed. Yeah. So then they can only teach if they accept that illusion as they define it in a new way. They call it a conditional vision. So we say no, there is no such conditional vision. The duality is real. And Sri Krishna, who is omniscient, is presenting it in verse 12 and is fully aware. The Lord is fixed in non-duality. He's seeing difference between Arjun and himself. So when Sri Krishna is teaching Arjun non-duality, it is actually a reality. It is not temporary. Okay.
Prabhu, may I just
Sure.
when I hear of the monotheistic, the Mayavadi, as you're saying, where you like Aham Brahmasmi and all of that makes me uncomfortable. But when I hear so much about the fact that no, you're always separate, you're always separate, you're always separate, that also somehow makes me uncomfortable. And I think the
Right.
Achintya Abhed is what gives me great peace. Because
Correct.
that tells me is that yes, I have an object to surrender to protect me, to be in the shelter of at all time. And yet I'm always connected with this entity,
Correct.
with this power. I'm a there's a spark of the divine in me also. I am not the divine. I'm in the shelter of the divine.
That,
But that connection, that relationship, that is what satisfies
exactly.
me and gives me comfort rather than the argument of am I completely separate or completely the same?
Correct. Yeah, that's right. What you're saying is correct. We are not completely Advaita, that it's both are the same, and we are not also saying that they're completely Dvaita. Because, like you said, if we create a wall between Jiva and Ishwar, that they are so separate, then there is no scope for a relationship, a connection. So, Achintya Vedaved is that final, conclusive understanding of the relationship between Jiva and Ishwara. That yes, in some aspects, like Nityanam, Chetanas, Chetananam, we are alike. We are conscious, we are eternal. But in some aspects, we are not. We are dependent, we are sheltered, and He is the provider of that shelter. So we are divine to the extent that we see ourselves as part of the divine. Mama eva amsha jiva loke. The jivas are my amsha. So if Krishna is divine, we are also divine. But we are not absolutely and independently divine. That is all we are trying to say. But we are divine, for sure. Yeah. So we are divine as Atma, and Krishna is divine as Paramatma. That's it. Okay, so did you understand the Badita Anuvritti, a Jivan Mukta? So now if because in scriptures there is constant mention of the difference of the Atma and Paramatma. Yeah, for example, in Shvetashvatar Upanishad, the statement comes, having understood that the soul is the cause of action, having understood that the soul and the inciter of action. Inciter of action here is referring to Bhagwan or Ishwar. Having understood that soul and the inciter of soul are different, thus gaining the love of the Lord, one attains freedom from death. So there is value in knowing the difference. You can gain freedom from samsara and you can gain love for the Lord when you know of the difference. So there is a beneficial result for the Atma, which is Amritatvam. Amritatvam means deathlessness. So there are verses like this in the Shrutis which say that when you know you are the desiring doer and then there is the facilitating doer, you understand the difference between the two doers, between Atma and Paramatma, that will lead to you gaining love for the Lord and that will get you out of samsara. So the difference is always presented and there is value in knowing that difference. That knowledge of that difference is what evokes love and is what gives us freedom from death. So we cannot say there is no difference. The difference is spoken about in scriptures continuously. Yeah. So what about non-difference? There is no such thing as non-difference. Hmm. What do you think will be the result of the knowledge of non-difference? Yeah, there is no results because scriptures speak something. It is said that scriptures speak about something which is unknowable by our own experience. That which we cannot know by our experience is what the scriptures present. Otherwise, if the scripture is also presenting what we are experiencing in this world, how would that make scriptures unique? So scriptures have to present something which is beyond our knowledge and which is beneficial. But non-difference, what does non-difference mean? Non-duality means you are not conscious of anything. And there is no result to that. Forget beneficial result, there is no result to not being conscious. So the monists, when they talk of absolute non-duality, absolute oneness, that absolute oneness or absolute non-duality that they speak about, they say that is unknown. That is what the scriptures are talking about. No, that is actually unknowable because it does not exist. Have you seen have you seen flowers in the sky? You see flowers on the tree. You don't see flowers on the sky. Akasha pushpayate. So something that doesn't exist, you cannot see. Similarly, absolute non-duality does not exist. It is therefore unknowable and it is useless. So when they speak of the one unchanging Brahman, Advaya Brahman, Nirvikar, Nirakar, Nirvishesh, Nirguna, Brahman, then what is Brahman? So they say Brahman is pure consciousness. But that consciousness cannot know even itself or anything. That is how they define that consciousness. So if that pure consciousness cannot know itself or anything outside it, there is nothing to know or do. Then and there's no use of knowledge. And if there is knowledge that creates, what does knowledge do? Knowledge creates change from state one to state two. So if there is absolute non-duality, there can be no knowledge also because knowledge will create change. So therefore, it is just un unreal. It doesn't exist. Therefore, it's unknowable. So the pure consciousness that they present is just pure consciousness in name only. Because if it cannot know itself or anything, how is it different from matter? It becomes as good as matter, jada. So Sri Krishna is presenting the real difference between the soul and the Lord. This is verse 12, and you now realize how important it is. Okay, so let's move on to verse 30. Let's chant. Dehinosmin yatha dehe kaumaram yauvanam jara tatha dehantara praptir dhiras tatra namuyati. So Sri Krishna, after explaining the fundamental difference between Jiva and Ishwar and the eternality of the Jiva, basically assuring Arjun, what are you fearing? You're fearing death? There is nothing like death. Then what? But we see people dying in this world all the time. So Sri Krishna says, that is not death. I'll tell you what that is. As the embodied soul continuously passes in this body from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at death. A sober person is not bewildered by such a change. This is again one of the you know most potent verses of the Bhagavad Gita. These teachings, these verses of Bhagavad Gita, these teachings of Sri Krishna are so potent. You meditate upon them and they are sufficient to completely lead you to perfection. They are very profound. So here let us understand what is being said. Sri Krishna brilliantly begins by using the word Dehi. Dehi. What does it mean? He is defining the self in relation to the Deha. He's not calling it Atma. He could have said Atma, which is embodied in this, external body. He's saying Dehi, which means who is a Dehi? We are Dehi. We who possess a Deha. So that automatically makes Deha external to you. So the brilliant use of the word Dehi already indicates a separation between Atma and Sharira. You see the brilliance? Dehi and Deha over. So Dehi Asmin Yatha Dehe. In this Deha, the Dehi, the Atman experiences change. In our own lifetime, we have experienced change. We were young, we were infants, then we became youth, and then we are moving towards old age. Is that not change? We have already experienced change, so why are we fearful of the final change? Death is just another change in a series of changes, Arjun. That is what Shri Krishna is presenting here. So it is important here to discuss all of this. Knowledge about the soul is important because it is presenting tattva. Tattva of the nature of the soul. Basically, it is talking about our identity. First, we have to clarify our identity. After that, we can decide how we act. This first 6 chapters are about Karma Yoga, how to live and act in this world, but you cannot reach there before you understand who you are. Identity impels action. So first, Sri Krishna is focusing on identity. He's not directly jumping and appeasing Arjun or directing Arjun, oh, let's discuss a strategy. I'll tell you how you can overcome this, how you can fight in this battle. I'll tell you a war strategy. The world is talking a lot about action, but they don't realize a few steps before action is identity. Nobody's talking about that. So action cannot be stable unless it is based on a true identity. So here Sri Krishna is presenting that, continuing from our previous discussion, who is the most affectionate? Who is the object of our affection? Our body. Why? Because it is related to the soul. The soul is the most dear. Atmaneva Vallabha. What is most dear to us is the soul. And because the body is related to that soul, the body becomes affectionate to us. And therefore, those related to this body. Yeah. So, when the bodies perish, because we have affection we have created this whole web of affection, we will lament, right? Sri Krishna saying, no. It is the bodies belonging to the Dehi. Yeah. Dehina is the Jiva. Jiva is attaining different states. We were boyhood, boyhood gets destroyed, youth comes up, youth gets destroyed, old age comes up. In this manner, yatha, tatha dehantara. So there is yatha tatha. Very important to understand why Sri Krishna is using it. Just as uh, you have changed states in this body, similarly, you will attain another body after death. Yeah. So, yatha, just like you did not lament for destruction of your infancy and your youth, therefore, tatha, you should also not lament for the destruction of the gross body and death. This is how Shri Krishna is showing that it is a continuous progression. Don't put limits to it. The body is constantly changing. This is just one experience we are having in this body, but that transformation of the body will continue. In fact, with the destruction of old bodies, Bhishma and Drona will get new bodies. See, they are advanced souls. Either they'll get heavenly bodies or they'll get spiritual bodies, moksha. So, in any case, there is no reason to lament. Okay, so just like Yatha, we didn't lament on losing our uh, infancy and youth. Why should we lament at the change of body? It's just incidental. Yeah, it's inevitable. It's just the Atma which is most dear to you. And because you relate the body to the Atma, therefore you feel lamentation. Okay. And even if you feel that they are losing this body, they'll get new bodies. So in either case, there is no reason to lament. So don't lament because the souls of Bhishma and Drona are separate from their bodies. So Arjun might say, yeah, their souls might get another body, but I cannot relate to the next baby Bhishma. For me, the relationship with Bhishma is in this present body because so therefore this present body also becomes a place for enjoyment. So I'm lamenting for Bhishma in his present body. So then to counteract that, Shri Krishna says, you have to be a dhira. A dhira knows the true nature of things. If you lament for something which is natural, like gravity, can gravity change? No. It's a law it's the law of nature. So if somebody laments for gravity, they are adhira, they are foolish. So Shri Krishna said, similarly, transformation of matter is a law of the universe. Hmm. How karmas work, that a dhira person knows. Yeah. So how we have come in this body, how Bhishma and Drona have taken this body, why are they related to you in this life? How are they in Hastinapur? That is all karma, Arjun. One who is dhira, they understand how karma works. Okay, so this is also an important place to understand karma because we use the term very generally in a very generic sense. What is karma, do you think? And then there is also something called as swabhava. So till the time you don't understand the difference between karma and swabhava, you will be confused about your current situation and there you might lament. What is swabhava? Swabhava is the memory of the previous experiences we have had. Yeah. That something, like we spoke of the Rasgulla. You immediately are able to recollect your past tasting of a Rasgulla. That is a samskar. So samskaras cause remembrance of experience from our previous lives. You can note this down because we will use this regularly in our discussion. We'll not define these terms again, we'll directly use them. So now is the time to understand these terms. Swabhava means previous impressions. Impressions of what? Of senses engaging with sense objects. Indriya and Indriya Vastu. So whenever senses and sense objects come together, there is sparsha. The next verse is going to talk about it. And the memory of that sparsha is called samskara. So only if we have a previous memory, we will have a like or dislike. That is called raga or dvesha. Attraction is raga and repulsion is dvesha. Yeah, you put your hand in the fire as a child and it burned. Now you have dvesha towards fire. Oh, no, no, no. Never put your hand in fire. Where is it coming from? Impression. So impressions create either attachment or attraction, raga, or if the experience was not good, it was not palatable, it creates dvesha, hatred or repulsion. So actually we are like walking X-ray machines. We are continuously scanning objects of this world and categorizing them into I like it, therefore I want to chase it. I dislike it, therefore I want to avoid it. So chase and avoid what I like and dislike respectively. That is how we are functioning. But do you realize what is that? It has nothing to do with us, the Atman. It is just a projection of the mind which is creating a new image, and that image is creating new likes and dislikes. It's just a algorithm playing in itself. You, the Atma, have no participation in it. That will stop you in your, boots wherever you're like, what? Why am I doing this? Because your mind created a story because of previous impressions.
So, Prabhu, what is the best way to clear your cache and your browsing history and your cookies?
Exactly what we're doing. Bhakti. Kechit kevalaya bhaktya. That is the verse we discussed in Nectar of Instruction, you remember? How can we overcome sin? Not only the reaction to sin, the proclivity to sin, and the reason of what causes sin is ignorance. The reaction, action, and its cause, ignorance, all of these three can be completely destroyed by bhakti, not by karma or jnana. That is why we are doing this practice of sadhana, japa, kirtan, navvida bhakti basically. That is what will clear that cache. That's the whole attempt to do a factory reset and go back to our Swarupa and go back to Krishna. We have put so many apps and viruses, and the system is completely hacked now. So we need to clear it. Uh, yeah, where were we? We are defining Swabhava. So is Swabhava clear to you? We'll use the word Swabhava without explaining it each time. So Swabhava is memory or remembrance of previous experiences, which that memory creates raga and dvesh. Hmm. So there is attraction and hate, but where is it coming from? From a past samskara. So from a past swabhava. And now what is karma then? Karma is different from swabhava. Swabhava is our memory of our past experiences, which leads us to like or dislike. This is one layer, okay? Karma is a separate layer. Karma is like a reaction to an action. It is a material response to your previous action. You did an action and there is a response to it that is called karma. So, what does karma do? Karma creates situations. Karma creates situations like body. So, this body is my karma fructified. My karma coming to full fruition is this body is a proof of my previous karma bearing fruit. So karma results in we getting a certain body and we being put into certain circumstances in life. Why somebody born poor in a poor household? And we cannot explain it without karma. It seems evil? How can different people have different starting points? Is there no equality in the eyes of the Creator? There is. Beyond equality, there is continuity. Continuity of actions and their responsibilities. That's how you explain why somebody is born poor, somebody is born rich, somebody is born ill, somebody is born healthy. So it is just the individual's past karma. So what does karma do? Karma is a reaction to our past action. Yeah, it is a material response to our previous action. It gives us a body and it puts us in certain situations and circumstances. Now that is the layer of karma. And then we saw the layer of Swabhava. Now let's put both these layers together. You are in a certain situation and you have a choice. Now, how do you choose? Is your free will really free? Your free will is influenced by your Swabhava. How you choose to act is influenced by your past impressions. Somebody who has had allergy to rose, as soon as they see a rose, they'll run away from it. Yeah, so how we choose to act is greatly influenced by our impressions of our past experiences, Swabhava, right? So, choice is influenced by Swabhava, but it is not determined by Swabhava. You still have room to choose otherwise. Okay, so now the $1,000,000 question. And whoever answers it will get 100 brownie points. So if we have to make a choice and we don't choose based on Swabhava, what do we choose based upon? चॉइस तो करना है. इफ स्वभाव के बेसिस पे नहीं करना है तो किसके बेसिस पे करेंगे?
Shastra.
Swaru.
Sorry? Okay, one answer. What did you say, bro?
Knowledge.
Knowledge. What is
Shastra, I said, Prabhu. Same. Mataji, what was Shastra?
correct? Yeah. The right answer is Shastra. So that is the whole journey of Swadhyay. We are assimilating this wisdom because this should be the map of our life, not our past impressions. Because they are imaginary, they are subjective. Somebody likes rose, some people hate a rose. So, how are we living our life based on subjectivity? So, we have two types of Shraddha. One is Swabhavajam Shraddha. Yeah, faith born out of previous impressions. This we will discuss in detail in chapter 16. I'm just throwing those words here. You don't need to worry. Swabhavajam Shraddha means when you act based on your Swabhava. I like it, I do it. That's in fact the whole world today. They create a glamour or glitter around a thing so that you happen to like it. And once you like it, you will want it again and again. So we say, no, we'll not go by my Swabhava, we'll go by Shastra. That is the real choice we have in our life. Shastriya Shraddha or Swabhavajam Shraddha. So your Swabhava might influence you, but if you choose scriptural knowledge, you can actually choose not to be influenced by your past impressions. Is that clear? Because people say, ये तो मेरा karma hai. Karma can put you in a certain situation or circumstance, but it cannot force you to remain there like a victim. It doesn't immobilize you, it doesn't paralyze you. With scriptural knowledge, you can overcome the influence of Swabhava and karma, and such a person is called a Dhira. Dhi. It's the root of the word buddhi, and we are going to see Sri Krishna is going to use the word buddhi so often. In fact, what we are going discussing in this section is called Buddhi Yoga. So one who has buddhi coming from Shastra, such a person is Dhira. Okay, is it clear?
Prabhu, one
So
question
Sri Krishna,
Hare
about
Krishna,
this.
Prabhu.
yeah,
Sorry, someone else.
sure. Go on. No, you can go ahead and then Prabhu can
Okay,
follow.
so the question that I had was that since the material body is under the influence of karma and swabhav, and so it is making choices based on that. The entity that is making the choices based on Shastra,
Right.
that is the entity, that is the jiva, that is the part of us that is above the, that is
Who
that has to, if it, how can you make a how can you be making a liberating choice when you are entangled in it? So that I'm trying to say, what part of us is the part of us that is wise enough to connect
Hmm.
with our Swaroop, with our Atma, with that knowledge, with our divine nature, and make those choices, because it cannot be the one that is entangled in our karma and our swabhav. So this
Correct.
fitness mode, or this, or what is it? That's what I want.
Correct. That's a good question. That's a good question. Who is it that chooses to act according to Shastra? It is uh, one who is guided. By oneself, we cannot, but if you have a coach, you can act even if you are conditioned. Even if you are unhealthy, you can get treated if you follow a doctor. As simple as that. So, is the patient choosing? Yes. So, can the patient not come out of the disease? Of course, they can. The only question is, do they have access to diagnosis and treatment? So, having a guru, having Shastra, that is how we, although conditioned, can choose Amritam, liberation or freedom. Yeah, by ourselves we cannot because we are stuck. But with if we hold the hand of our guru and Shastra, which is beyond the gunas, we're beyond avidya and ahankar, then we can choose, not independently. Yes,
Hare
Roshan
Krishna.
Prabhu had a question.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yeah,
Prabhuji,
please.
I just want to know about the prarabdha, any relation to the swabha prarabdha. Yes.
No, there are two. That's what we discussed, Prabhu. There are two different layers. Swabhava is just a remembrance of your previous experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, it will tend to influence you. Karma is more deterministic. It has already had an effect. It has given you a certain body, it has put you into a certain situation, a family, a country, etc. So karma is more deterministic, whereas Swabhava is more subtle. It can influence you, but you can choose not to be influenced by it also.
But
Prarabdha
there is
karma you can avoid. Prarabdha karma is already karma which has fructified, which is this body. That is how the concept of Jivan Mukta is explained. Somebody can gain perfection, but what does it mean to be perfect, liberated? Can somebody get self-realized? Of course. But if they're self-realized, what does it mean going beyond the gross and subtle body, right? So does it mean they have to die? No. Their karmas are completely dissolved. They are just have to wait till this body, this external shell also gives away. So it's just a matter of time that their previous prarabdha karma is, the residual prarabdha karma is getting extinguished. That's a Jivan Mukta. Okay?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, Mataji.
Prabhu, according to our karma, we get certain bodies, and according to karma, we will be put into different situations, and as well as we get certain wisdom, or everyone has different. Capacity to understand things, different caliber. So,
Correct.
so how somebody will understand also, even though somebody is studying the scriptural knowledge, so everyone will have different sponge, how they will
Correct.
absorb, and accordingly they will take decisions. So everyone will not, even though somebody is reading Bhagavad Gita, so everyone will not be able to take decisions at the same level. So what is that factor which changes? It's again karma, right?
That's a very good question. By karma, we will get the ability to understand scripture And by understanding scripture, we'll get the ability to go beyond samsara. So is it not our karma? So what is it making? It is creating eternal damnation. If somebody is not having karma, they cannot access scripture and therefore they can never be liberated. That's not what scriptures present. Yes, karma gives us intelligence, beauty, and all the, we have discussed all the opulences.
Six opulences.
Yeah. So karma can give you that, but what is required to understand scripture is buddhi. Buddhi is given to all human beings. So therefore, when we study Srimad Bhagavatam next, we will see what is the qualification for bhakti, samanya bhakti. Nothing, just being a human being. So everyone is qualified to practice bhakti. And the example they give is, just as everyone is qualified to take bath in a holy river, everyone is qualified to do bhakti. And as an extension, also to understand scripture. So the qualification for scripture is basic buddhi, which is already an attribute of becoming a human being. And as human beings, now imagine if you don't use your buddhi, we are as good as animals. So therefore, what separates us is our buddhi, which is best utilized to get free from this material realm. Is that okay? So all of us have the qualification. And we should use it. Otherwise, Prabhupada said this human civilization without self-realization is just a civilization of two-legged animals. Animals are running on four legs and we are running in our fancy four-wheelers. What did we really do? Did we really do anything different from the animals? Or are we just going to live and die like sophisticated, polished animals? That should really wake us up. Okay? Yes, Prabhu?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Prabhuji, my in fact query is related to what Avantika Mataji mentioned. You clarified that and what I understand from that is, if we take a shelter of Guru Sadhu Shastra,
Correct.
so it can influence our free will to take corrective decisions at the time of distress. Is that what it means?
Yeah. So what you said last, I couldn't hear. Just the last part of what you said.
Our free will, if it is influenced with the protection of or shelter of Guru Sadhu Shastra, then we are eligible, or we can make the rightful use of that free will in distressful situations. Is that
Correct.
That's what I understood. So I just wanted to clarify.
Correct. That's right, bro. That's right. See, we all have free will, but then either we can use it whimsically or we can use it purposefully. What does it mean whimsically? If you want to find water, you start digging. You dig for 2 feet, you put in your effort, you're perspiring, you wasted your time, energy, which is limited as human beings. So that investment, you have made an investment in terms of something that's limited and scarce. Now you stop digging there and you start digging at another place 100 meters away. Again, you invest your energy. That is whimsical life. You want to be free, but does freedom means unaccountability? Does freedom mean escape from responsibility? No, that is not the dharmic definition of freedom. Dharmic definition of freedom is you experience your full potential as a soul. You go beyond the covering. Now you are a free spirit, but the body and ahankar have really, just is holding you captive. You could do so much more, but your energy, like fire covered by a pot, is restricted. So don't you want to be free? So that is freedom. Freedom in dharma comes with discipline and responsibility. freedom in the modern sense that we say, that is irresponsibility. So we should make a difference. What freedom are we talking about? So yes, free will we have available, but if we just keep acting whimsically, not acting in terms of the scriptural injunction, then we'll waste our energy like digging in different places. But if you have a compass of Shastra, you know where is water and you dig there continuously. Even if you don't find water for 10 days, that effort is not wasted. It's so whimsical means that's something which is dissipated. It doesn't accumulate. So we have to choose. Do we want to act whimsically or do we want to act purposefully? The more spiritually serious you become, the more you realize that we don't have much time. And therefore, you are measured about your every effort. What impression should I let in my mind? What new information or content should I let into my mind? So you have to be very calculated. We'll see. Shri Krishna is going to say that. Vyavasayatmika buddhi. You have to adopt the mindset of a vyavasayi, a business person. Every penny going out, you count. Every penny coming in, you count. That's how you become self-realized. That's how you gather your consciousness. Not that it is scattered and you do whatever you like. Such people cannot achieve self-realization. So we have free will, but how do we use it? Swairachar Abdhi. There's this beautiful verse in one scripture that I have been acting whimsically by misusing my free will for so long. What has that resulted in? Nothing. It is like the energy of the waves which are crashing on the rocks at the shore. What did it lead to? Nothing. Such a display of power, but it's all waste. That is how we can misuse our free will. So let us not waste our time, energy, and follow the instructions of Shastra. Okay, bro. Yeah. Yes, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. In continuation
Bol.
with Nilambari Mataji's question, where
Uh-huh.
Mataji asked that we all have different capacities. So, other than just the buddhi to understand the scriptures, everywhere in the shastras it is written that it's only mercy with which we can understand Krishna. So above these two layers comes kripa, right? I mean, ultimately,
Hmm.
only then we can understand.
That's true.
Yeah. I
That's
mean, we
true.
saw it in the case of Prabhupada also, how the hippies had different lifestyles but completely transformed because of kripa.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes, absolutely. So definitely there is, see, you're trying to reach the infinite, but you yourself are finite. Can the finite ever understand the infinite? No. The answer is through our current situation, we cannot touch the infinite. In chapter 11 of the Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna tells Arjun, I'll give you divine vision by which you'll be able to see. So even that divine vision has to come from Krishna by which we'll be able to actually understand Krishna. So what we do, our endeavor is only to attract grace. The result will come from grace. But how do we get grace? When we put in our sincere endeavor, and that attracts Krishna. Then Krishna will shower grace, right? I mean, if somebody is not endeavoring, why would Krishna be, inspired to shower mercy? Mercy being causeless doesn't mean that irrespective of whatever we do, Krishna will give or not give mercy. Causeless means it doesn't have a hetu. We cannot accord a material cost to it. That's the meaning of causeless. Not that even if we don't do something and we can still desire mercy. It doesn't happen. Whatever we are doing in bhakti is just to attract Krishna's attention. Krishna, please help me. And Krishna himself says, Mama Maya Duratyaya. This is impossible to cross, my Maya. But if you surrender to me, Mameva ye prapadyante, Maya metam tarantite. So ultimately, it's surrender which leads us to freedom, to relationship with Krishna. But reaching that point of surrender also requires our sincere effort. Okay.
Thank you. Yes.
Okay, so we'll just touch upon the last part of this purport and then close. So this beautiful verse, and we have discussed the counter arguments also, that it was originally, one soul. This theory of Ekatma. It's only one Brahman. If it is only one Brahman, how did we come to be? Oh, you are just thinking that you are different from Brahman because you are in avidya. Okay, so how did I enter into the state of avidya? Oh, that is the influence of Maya. So you mean Maya can influence even Brahman? Then means you are not a worshipper of Brahman, you are actually a worshipper of Maya. That is why we call them Mayavadi. They think that Maya can bewilder even Brahman, that Brahman can start to see itself as different from original Brahman. So this theory is called Ekatmavad. Those who say there is only one soul. But here we see Sri Krishna clearly presenting in every verse, that there is difference. So this claim is foolish that ultimately all souls are one. It is only our ignorance that we think we are different. If you say that Brahman is divine, how is it possible to divide that mass of consciousness? By how does that original Brahman get divided into many jivas? By ignorance. So you think consciousness can be divided by dull ignorance? First of all, we are going to see the attributes of consciousness. Our consciousness cannot be divided. It's indivisible. So there it fails. And then how can ignorance? Ignorance is inferior to consciousness. How can ignorance cut or divide Brahman into so many jivas? So this theory doesn't stand. Then some people say that, okay, don't think of that Brahman becoming many parts. That fails. Think of that one Brahman being reflected in many separate surfaces. They use this famous theory of Ghatakash Patakash. There is sky. Okay, before that, did you understand the first argument? That if avidya is what makes us into so many different jivas, different from the original Brahman from whom we came, they claim, then how did we become different from that Brahman? By ignorance. But how can ignorance, which is dull, how can ignorance divide Brahman, which is pure consciousness? So either you are counteracting your own definitions. Either you say that Brahman is not pure consciousness and it can be divided, or you say that, oh, ignorance is not as powerful, so it cannot divide Brahman. So therefore the theory fails. So the concept of Ekatmavad is false because Atma, first of all, cannot be divided. It is indivisible. And secondly, ignorance cannot divide Brahman because consciousness is superior and ignorance is dull and inferior. So this is first part. Second part is, they may say, okay, fine, it is not actually divided. It is just a reflection of the original. Like there is sky, and then and let's imagine it's a night sky, and in the sky you see a moon. And then you keep 10 different pots, fill them with water, and now on the surface of the water in each of those 10 pots, you will also see a reflection of the moon. That is how they then try to justify that we are all coming from Brahman. And they say once you overcome this avidya, once you are situated in samadhi, you are self-realized, that is like breaking off the pot. And then the pot will break and then the reflection will not exist. Then it will be only the actual sky. So how does this argument sound? Convincing? No, it is not. It is based on very shaky premises. First, we said Brahman cannot be divisible. Second, we said ignorance cannot be more powerful than Brahman. Then, to refute the idea that consciousness can be reflected, the first attribute of consciousness is that consciousness is subject. It is not object. So subject means, like, to see anything, you need light, right? So the sun doesn't require any other source of light. So in that sense, sun is the subject. But everything else is the object, because to see everything else, you need the sun. So in that way, we can understand consciousness, Brahman. It is pure subject. Yeah, it cannot become an object. So only Brahman exists. That is what they claim. So if that one unchanging consciousness changes into many, so the very fact that you're using the word change, it is creating a fault. Means if either you support the theory of oneness or you talk about transformation, you cannot use both. Because transformation, think of transformation as breaking a rock with a chisel. So what is happening? You are transforming the original, but pure original consciousness, Brahman, cannot be transformed. So it contradicts the soul's unchangeable nature. Yeah. And we cannot think of it as something that can be reflected. Is air reflected? Have you seen a reflection of air? Have you seen a reflection of space? Have you seen a reflection of directions? So if we cannot see a reflection of these subtle things, what to speak of Brahman? A Brahman cannot be reflected. What is reflected? Like when we speak, the sky is reflected, it is actually the moon and the stars which are reflected. So material elements which are subtle, like sky, like space, they also cannot be reflected. Then what we see in the reflection is just a reflection of light and color. It is not actually the sky which is reflected. So this proposition is false because first, to be reflected, there would have to be difference of object and subject in the Brahman, which cannot be. And second, what will be seen in the reflection? Brahman is not an object to be reflected. It is the subject itself. Yeah. So this reflection is different from normal perception. That idea cannot be accepted. So what we only see is the constellations and the stars. If it's a dark night, will you see any reflection? So the idea is you cannot see Brahman because, in fact, if you say you will see a reflection of Brahman, that means you will see Brahman with qualities. Then it becomes Savishesha Brahman. That they don't accept because that will also contradict their theory. They want to accept Nirvishesh Brahman. But Nirvishesh Brahman, a Brahman with no attributes, how will it reflect? It is not an object to reflect, basically. Yeah. So this is how we counteract that argument of Ekatmavad. And you also need a substance to see a reflection on, right? So where is that substance going to come from? If you say everything is Brahman, then there is no real object other than Brahman, then what is going to be the reflecting surface? So there is no basis to this theory, therefore it doesn't stand. Okay. When scriptures talk about Bhagwan as Akash, it is talking about the Paramatma feature of the Lord. That as Paramatma, the Lord is present everywhere. But that doesn't mean that Brahman can be reflected. It cannot be reflected because it is the subject and not the object. When you say Brahman is present everywhere, so when scriptures talk of Ishwar as Sarvavyapi, present everywhere like Akash, it is talking about the function of Akash. It is not talking of the state of Akash because Akash cannot be reflected. And another argument Prabhupada also presents in the purport that, okay, if there is absolute oneness, then how can there be a teacher? Teacher means there is there are two states of conditioned and perfection that defeats oneness. If somebody's already realized, they know that there is only one Atman, then why will they teach the existence of someone? How will the teacher themselves exist separate from Brahman? That is also not supported. And what is the purpose of that knowledge? So therefore, these arguments of Ekatmavad or Badita Anuvritti, which we discussed earlier, they do not hold. Shri Krishna is consistently presenting that the difference between Ishwar and Jiva is eternal plurality and eternal individuality. Okay, thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Bhagavad Gita ki jai.